Okay. So thank you very much. I would start by thanking Center for Global and Strategic Studies, and particularly General Zahirul Islam and General Jafri Saab, for giving me this opportunity to speak on a very important subject. This type of conference are seldom being held, at least in Pakistan. Therefore, the knowledge about hybrid war is very, very limited, and people of Pakistan has very limited understanding about the subject. Therefore, I would suggest that the more such type of conferences should be held, not only in Islamabad, but all the provincial capital of Pakistan as well, because this is the new techniques of war. General Zubair has extensively presented the concept of hybrid war, which made my task much easier. Professionally, I am a macroeconomist, but for this lecture, I had to study a lot. And a lot of work has already been covered in General Zubair's, so I will rather concentrate more on economic aspect, but for the sake of completeness, to reach there on the economic side, some basic concepts of hybrid war I would like to explain. This is what I intend to do in a limited time. Let me move to the concept of hybrid war. As General Zubair has pointed out, the concept of interstate war is waning, or is on the decline. And the concept of hybrid war has gained traction, particularly after 2005. And that deals with Hezbollah war with Israel. This is what it is stated in the literature. This hybrid war is now being utilized to achieve political objectives that are not possible through direct military conflict. Therefore, hybrid war is still unknown to people of Pakistan, and particularly the students of Pakistan universities and colleges, because they have not studied this topic. Hybrid war is a way of fighting that combines the regular or conventional with irregular and non-conventional forces. It can combine subversion, destabilizing social media influence, disruptive cyber attacks, and economic coercion and sabotage. Therefore, hybrid war exploits the full spectrum of modern warfare. A state engaging in hybrid war, what they do? They foment instability in other states' domestic affairs by using the technique of cyber influence operatives in conjunction with economic pressures, support to local opposition groups, disinformation, and criminal or terrorist activities. It may involve the covert deployment of unmarked troops or irregular combatants through hybrid warfare, reliance on cyber capabilities and non-state proxies. Today's hybrid war would fit better as activities in the gray zone of conflict. And this is what General Zubair has explained. He combined rather gray zone hybrid war as a concept. This gray zone conflict employs unconventional tactics from cyber attack to propaganda and political warfare to economic cooperation and sabotage to sponsorship of armed proxy fighters to creeping military expansionism. These tactics are frequently shrouded as misinformation and deception. A key aspect of grey zone challenges is that they should be sufficiently ambiguous to leave the target unsure as to how to respond. Most importantly, grey zone conflicts are neither war nor peace, but instead it lies somewhere in between. There are 5 elements of grey zone hybrid war. It starts with media propaganda, and we use the subject of mass communication for media propaganda. How? It uses disinformation, fake news, defamation of government, political leaders, armed forces, and judiciary. Whatever happening today, please recollect all those things which I am explaining today here. Intervention into foreign electoral system, flawed diplomacy. Then comes cyber warfare, hacking and manipulation of data, proxy armed fighter, indirect warfare. Kulbhushan Yadav names have already been mentioned. Economic coercion and sabotage. The country's finance minister presents fictitious picture of the economy, and when they leave, it is realized that it is all bogus. Subversion activities. So these are the 5 elements of grey zone hybrid war. In recent years, we have witnessed the concept of grey zone gaining traction in the new topology of conflict. Let me come to the economics part. Economic coercion and sabotage as an instrument of hybrid war or gray zone conflict. Economic sabotage is the practice of undermining the economy of any nation. It is a tactic used to pressure government to achieve political objectives. Economic coercion and sabotage can be used against a foreign government to undermine its standing in the Committee of Nations. How economics is being used as an instrument in the hybrid warfare. And this is what I'm going to explain to you is based on my personal experience in working in the government at the very senior position. Suppose a country wants to achieve certain political objectives which are not possible to achieve through direct warfare. What the country would do then to achieve its objective? First of all, the country would find a political leader and a political party in the interest country, wherever it has interest. Support the leader and the party wholeheartedly through politically, diplomatically, and financially. Step 2. If the party wins the election and come to the power, economic coercion and sabotage as an instrument of hybrid war began to take shape. How? By appointing a weak finance minister and a weak central bank governor. Weakening of key economic institutions by appointing weak and frivolous leadership. What will happen? This will breed misgovernance, and bad governance will become the norm. And this will lead to the enhanced role of consultants from within or outside the country. It will also increase the reliance of the countries on NGOs to deliver. To deliver, it will increase. The country continues to provide financial support directly or through international financial institutions, international debt capital market, etc. Why? To ward off the implementation of wide-ranging structural reforms. ये काम ना करो, ये पैसे लेते चले जाओ. Targeted countries continue to acquire huge debts. And in the process, their economies continue to deteriorate. These countries ultimately go to the lender of the last resort and lose their financial sovereignty. Lender of the last resorts are under the influence of their major shareholders. Lender of the last resorts bail these countries out provided the political objectives are materialized. Economic managers economies through bad policies and misgovernance, and hence they create conditions in their respective countries which enable them to succumb to the economic pressure and sabotage. Political objectives are achieved. Economic pressure and sabotage have worked successfully as an instrument of hybrid warfare. Is Pakistan facing hybrid war? The answer is yes, absolutely yes. Pakistan is in the midst of hybrid war, at least for the last 1 decade. Although General Zubair believes that Pakistan was a victim of hybrid war in 1971. But it accelerated during the last 4 or 5 years. All the 5 elements which I described of hybrid war have been unleashed on Pakistan for the last several years. The people of Pakistan have not yet realized, because the beauty of the hybrid war is that it is ambiguous and shrouded in misinformation and deception. So the people in general, they don't know what is happening. With dismal literacy rate, in the case of Pakistan, the people of Pakistan have not yet realized as to what have happened or happening to them or going to happen to them. They take it as a normal deterioration in the economy. It is an undeniable fact that a country's economic strength has a direct bearing on the country's military strength. A strong economy can ensure a strong defense, which in turn enhances the country's power and strengthens national security. Weak economy generates violence, conflicts, political turmoil, and hence weakens national security. According to Paul Kennedy, a British historian who has specialized in international relations and economic power, has said a nation's military strength rests on its economic strength. Similarly, Robert McNamara, a former president of the World Bank, security means development. And without development, there is no security. Therefore, the bottom line is that the economy matters for security. If economy is weakened, security is bound to be weakened. Therefore, use economic sabotage, economic coercion as an instrument of hybrid war. While each element of economics, each element of national economy matters for security, I have identified only 4 areas which I think that is sufficient to break a country. The first one is economic growth. The second one is twin deficit, budget and current account gap. Third is public and external debt. And fourth is foreign exchange reserves. Why economic growth is important? Because lower economic growth brands a country as a problem country. And again, this is based on my personal experience. In early 2000, when Pakistan's economy was growing at an average rate of 3%, 3.5%, we were regarded as a problem country. Even friends would avoid meeting us. They would say, oh, well, Mr. So-and-so is traveling outside Washington. They know exactly how long these people will stay in the city. So when you ask them, when are you expecting him to be back? Perhaps next week. They know exactly what is happening. So this is the friends would stop entertaining you. And the reverse takes place when your economy is booming, economy is growing by 7-8% per annum. They would regard that country as an opportunity country, opportunity to make businesses and make money. The entire foreign policy objectives changes depending on the economic growth of any country. Second, economic growth if economy is growing slowly, it fails to create enough jobs. People in general and youth in particular would find it difficult to get jobs. It breeds social chaos, civil unrest, and political turmoil in the country. It is bound to create security issues for the country. And third, if economy is not growing fast, it fails to generate adequate resources. It will force government to sustain a large fiscal deficit, which leads to large external debt and public debt. It also affects your human capital and infrastructure development. This has been the performance of Pakistan over the last quarter of a century. All these fake numbers, sorry. All these numbers are, there's a star, tells you these are all fake numbers. Economy grew at an average rate of 4%, between 3.5% to 4% in the last 5 years. Look at the rate of unemployment has gone up. And you would be surprised, knowing very well what is going on, the government has stopped releasing numbers of unemployment since 2014-15. So in 2017-18, we have information about the country's unemployment rate 4 years back. We don't have any information, updated information about the job creation or unemployment or employment position, because the things were deteriorating. Look at this situation. Concentrate on 15 to 9 years age and 20 to 24 years age population. They are the youth and the prime age people. And look at this. These people are, their unemployment rate is rising and their labor force participation rate. These people are moving out from the labor market. Where are they gone? Roughly 2 million youth is out of the job market. Kidhar chale gaye hain ye sab log? And what are they doing? This is a matter of national security. Budget. Budget deficit is the mother of economic problem. And we sustained a very large deficit for a very long period of time. Look at this number and look at these early 90s. Do jhalar aapko nazar aa rahe hain. These two periods have created problem for Pakistan, because we maintained very large deficit in the 90s and now from 2008 onward. And you will see in a moment how these things have created difficulties and challenges for Pakistan today. Another problem is NFC award. You would be surprised that I am explaining NFC award as a part of national security. Look how much resources have been transferred to provinces prior to this NFC award. 2,000 billion. 2,000 billion or 2 trillion in 5 years to the provinces went from federal government to provinces. And under the new NFC award, which is in vogue today, we transferred 6,671 billion versus 2,600 billion. 3 times more resources went to provinces. Where those monies have gone? Literacy rates have declined in Pakistan overall and in provinces as well. Primary enrollment to school have declined. Health indicators have worsened in all the 4 provinces. Where the money has gone? It has bred corruption. People have bought properties in Dubai and other places. Look at the 3 times more resources have gone. Nobody have asked where this money has gone. Debt. When you sustain large budget deficit, it leads to the accumulation of debt. What has been the situation of debt? I will not spend much time here. I will only explain this table. This is based on one of my recent articles, and somebody, I think this infographics, they designed this and they put this on social media. It became viral. 1947 to 2007, in 60 years, we have accumulated $40 billion of reserve debt. In 60 years, we accumulated. 60 years. Okay. Thank you. 2008 to 2013. In this 5 years, we added 21 billion. In 5 years. And 2014 to 2018, in this 5 years, we are adding 34 billion. So in the last 1 decade, we added more than $54 billion of debt. This is the one. 2008 to 2018, almost $54 billion of debt out of 95 billion has been added in the last 1 decade. And recall, at a differing speed during the last 1 decade. And this is how we have accumulated debt. This is the reserve which is now on the decline. And this is again a misleading number. This reserves, which is reported here on June 18, $10 billion. $6.1 billion is the commercial bank deposit lying with this State Bank. So this is not the reserve of the State Bank of Pakistan. This is the deposit. The same deposit, the net reserve with banks, this is the commercial bank number. This number is appearing also there with 10 billion. So there is a double counting which is going on. So literally we have $4 billion of reserve with a $95 billion of debt. This is an issue of national security, sir. This is what is happening. I will go to the last one. This is our total requirement for the year. How much dollar we need? $26.5 billion. 12 billion will be coming from a variety of sources. This will leave a gap of $14.5 billion. Who will fill this gap? किधर से आएगा ये पैसा? जिधर भी जाएंगे, the political objectives will be realized. People are waiting. Let me conclude, sir. Pakistan is currently experiencing hybrid warfare. All the elements of hybrid warfare have been unleashed on Pakistan with differing intensity for the last 1 decade. People of Pakistan have not yet realized the fact. Economic pressure and sabotage is also being used as an instrument of hybrid war. Pakistan's economy has been damaged to the core, sir, deliberately, to weaken its security. Talks of Pakistan going back to the lender of the last resort is now coming out. Imagine, it is the same Ministry of Finance until 31st of May was saying that we have strengthened Pakistan's economy and Pakistan will not go to the IMF. On 2nd of June, when the same Ministry of Finance gives a presentation to the Prime Minister, the caretaker Prime Minister says, "Sir, halat bahut gambhir ho gaye hain. We have to go to the IMF." Look at the change in just 48 hours. Pakistan's economic institutions have also been weakened. Few Pakistani economists were crying all the time for the last 5 years. कि सर हालात खराब हो रहे हैं. Believe me, sir. Let me repeat. No one, and I am repeating, no one paid any attention to our writing. A lot of water has flowed under the bridge by now. How to prevent insolvency of the country and how to address FATF issue before June 2018 are the most immediate challenge for the country and for this caretaker government. Are we ready to address this? I hope so. And we all pray, this is the month of Ramadan. we all should pray that we should address all these issues. Thank you very much for your patient hearing.